So it goes without saying, but Jessica and I are huge fans of Upwork, and we think that it's probably the best freelancing website available today. And that's why we created this podcast. But it is definitely not a perfect platform, and there are quite a few things that we would change if we could. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go over some of the biggest changes that we would like to make to Upwork. So Jessica, let's talk about one of the biggest things that we would change if we could about Upwork. It's something that changed recently. Talk to me about the client feedback removal feature.
So I'm still mourning the loss of this feature. This is the client feedback removal feature, and it was only available to top-rated freelancers, and it was basically a get out of jail free card. So every 10 projects, you had the ability to remove negative feedback, and this gave me so much peace of mind. Like, to this day, I do not take on projects just because I don't have that card to pull out of the back of my pocket. And again, this is more worst case scenario. If a client goes haywire, if whatever reason you get a bad review left on your Upwork profile, you could get it removed. And so I think the reason they took this away is because there must have been some freelancers or some clients that were abusing this feature, but that's something that I would bring back.
Yeah, this one really hurt. This one really hurt as a freelancer. It seems like Upwork made this decision to, obviously this benefits the client side of Upwork. There's two sides to Upwork. There's the freelancer side and there's the client side. This move that they made definitely hurt the freelancers and benefited the clients. The thing is like, we are constantly badgering you guys about being selective with who you take on. And in the worst case scenario, sometimes clients are amazing in the beginning of the project, and then over time, something in their life happens. They have the potential to turn into someone completely differently after you've taken them on. And that's kind of the worst case scenario. And being able to, as an option, every 10 projects, I mean, come on, that's a lot of projects you got to get through to just unlock one chance to remove negative feedback. So, even when it was a feature, that's a pretty fair standard. That's a pretty fair ratio of completed projects to one negative feedback removal option. So yeah, this one, I still don't understand why they did it completely. I know it makes things more transparent, but it's a bit ridiculous to think that all clients are good clients, all client reviews should matter. There's no such thing as a nightmare client. I understand Upwork is trying to improve the experience for clients, but this one felt a little strong, heavy-handed against freelancers. And all it's really done is it's made me definitely let fewer clients through my filter. It's caused me to increase the amount of filters that I have in order to feel confident to take on a client. And all that really does is move that potential client into a lower quality freelancer. So, I'm not sure if that's a net benefit, but it is something that we would bring back if we could.
Yeah, you touched on something that was interesting. Like, from my perspective too, I tend to be very neurotic about the clients that I do take on because I want the 5-star reviews. So from my perspective as well, I'm not taking on as many projects. So one could argue maybe there's less money to be made unless the client goes with like a cheaper freelancer or whatever. But yeah, I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah, so I'd say the jury is still out in terms of, does this actually help Upwork? If you really think about it, in terms of what are happening to those new clients that experienced freelancers are no longer taking on. Because look, if you're a new client with no job history, I'm probably going to be extremely wary of you in terms of taking your work on. So now you're going to have less top-rated freelancers to choose from because we're staying back, and you're going to have to choose from a pool of less experienced freelancers, which could be a good thing depending on which kind of freelancer you get. So yeah, this would be something I definitely bring back.
I can't help but come to the conclusion that maybe there were freelancers out there that were abusing this feature, which is one of the motivators for Upwork to take the feature away completely. But I think obviously, it would be amazing if they brought it back, but if they don't bring it back entirely, like maybe once a year, of a freelancer gets to pull out this card and they only have like one get out of jail free card a year, or just give us something to work with.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just give us something. The idea of having literally no recourse for a nightmare client, a completely unjustified review, is pretty messed up, to be honest. And all it's doing is making me work with less clients on Upwork. And yeah, I even have a buddy who was kind of new to Upwork, and one of those nightmare clients slipped through, and now he is permanently stuck with that negative review on his profile. He even had evidence that the review was unjustified, and he sent that to Upwork, and they were unable to do anything. So it just feels like the freelancer side of Upwork deserves a little bit more focus in terms of reviews.
So the next feature that we would like to bring to Upwork is having reviews be mandatory. So right now, as it stands, reviews are not mandatory. And from the freelancer's perspective, it can be really frustrating because you're hunting down clients to write you those reviews. But I would love to see something similar to Fiverr, where you deliver the final product or whatever of your project, and then the client is prompted to have to leave a review in order for that final deliverable to be sent through. That seems like a fair compromise.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Fiverr platform, maybe because I haven't used it very much, and it kind of doesn't really gel with the way that I like to work with clients on a very customized basis. But this is one area where Fiverr does a good job for the freelancer. They have set up their system in a way where clients, in order to get that final download, they can see the final result before approving it. But if they want to actually download that unwatermarked file or whatever is the final deliverable, they have to leave a review in order to get that download. And I think that should be something Upwork implements, because as it stands, we really have to hold the client's hand. We got to tell them where to go. We got to remind them 20 times to get them to leave a review. And the feedback option is just way too buried. It's way too hidden. And it really should be something that is more front and center for clients, because as it stands now, getting those 5-star reviews is actually really, really difficult depending on the client.
Yeah, like I wish it was worked into the system like Fiverr has it, because like I hound my clients for 5-star reviews. Like I am mentioning it on a call, 2 months before the project ends. I'm sending them multiple messages and multiple follow-ups. I'm showing them how to do it. So if we could just work that into the system, it would save a lot of freelancers time and headache.
One thing to think about, though, is the fact that it is difficult to get those 5-star reviews every time is an actual advantage for those of you who really are willing to put in the work. So, it is interesting to think about that Upwork reviews are not mandatory right now, which gives those of us who are really adamant about getting those reviews kind of an advantage in the marketplace, because we're able to just align our profile with those 5-star reviews, whereas most Upwork freelancers just end up with that no feedback given, which does not look good in my opinion. So the second thing we would change is give us mandatory reviews, or at least make it way easier for clients to leave reviews. And that segues perfectly into our third thing that we would change, which is always let the freelancer see the client's job history and reviews. So most of the time, if you see a job in that job feed, you can get kind of an idea of you can see the client's job history. However, if clients reach out to you directly and they send you a DM directly, there is no way to actually see their job history or their previous reviews, which is kind of an oversight in my opinion, because I think freelancers should always be able to see a client's review history, especially when, we don't even have the ability to remove negative feedback now. So you need to give us as much information on these clients as possible. So it seems like an oversight that right now, if a client directly DMs you and wants to hire you, there's no way to see that job history of them. All you can see is their score, but you can't actually see the job history. So that's something that could be fixed pretty easily, and it definitely needs to be done.
Like there's two sides to every partnership. And so, especially if the client maybe has kind of an in between rating, maybe they have like a 3.5, 3.7 out of 5 stars, you kind of want to know like, what's the situation here? Is this on the client or is this on the freelancer? So, again, it just would be very helpful from the freelancer's perspective and just make it a little bit more fair because, like, you are also vetting the client when you decide to work with them. So, the next thing that we would love to change about Upwork is getting Connect refunds. That is something Upwork has made a really big push throughout the last couple of years, and that is something I hear from so many different freelancers is that Upwork is getting more and more expensive. I have to spend more and more money on connects and I'm not getting refunded for them. And I think this was something they did maybe a couple years ago where yes, you could spend a certain amount of connects on a proposal, but then if no one got hired or you didn't get hired, you'd get the connects refunded, which that seems so much more fair to me.
Yeah, is that something that they actually removed? Was because I do remember there being a system in place where if no one was hired, then you got your connects back. Did they remove that?
Yes, they removed it. I remember a couple years ago, you would spend a bunch of money on connects, and then if no one got hired, you would get those refunds. You would get those connects back, which seemed fair to me. But now they've completely changed it. So it doesn't matter if the client hires someone or if they don't hire anybody, you don't get those connects refunded.
Yeah, this is a huge problem that Upwork has to solve because look, I understand making it more expensive to submit proposals totally makes sense. I 100% agree we need to cut down on the amount of proposals that every job listing is getting, but there is an epidemic of people posting jobs and not hiring anyone. So you need to give us refunds for those if no one gets hired, or you need to extremely increase the amount of money it costs to post a job on Upwork. Like you have to do one of those two things because right now there are way too many freelancers that are qualified for jobs, that are competitive for jobs, that are submitting these proposals, and then no one is getting hired. I mean, we have someone in our coaching program who submitted 20 or 30 proposals to jobs. And I want to say 80 to 90% of those jobs didn't hire anyone. That is not a system that is sustainable and it needs to be fixed by either increasing the cost by a lot to post a job so that people are actually invested in hiring someone, or you need to refund us if they don't hire anyone.
And this is something so many freelancers complain about. Like, we understand Upwork is a little bit more client focused and less so on the freelancer. But, like, if you have so many freelancers that are complaining about the same exact thing, you got to change something. If Upwork wants to keep all the freelancers happy, they're going to have to budge a little bit.
And that brings me to our next change that we would make to Upwork, which is make getting paid a little bit easier on the client and the freelancer. So right now we recommend don't ever charge hourly. That's the first thing we recommend. And then, so if you are charging via milestones, fixed payment, right now there's just a little bit too much friction with that process. Right now, as it stands, getting approval and submitting changes for milestones is just putting too much effort onto the client. I think if the client agrees to a milestone agreement in the beginning of the project, let's say it's 2 milestones, one for the deposit and one for the completion. I think if they agree to that in the beginning of the contract, you shouldn't have to require them to approve milestones beyond that, in my opinion. Now, maybe there's another way to simplify it to make it a little less work on both sides, but right now, it just feels like me having to submit a request for a milestone completion is a bit annoying to the client. I think they already feel like they agreed to this process. So I think that we should streamline that a little bit, make it easier for us to get paid.
It's such a headache for a client. Like, I've worked with multiple clients and we do the milestones, and I can just tell it's a headache for them every single month. And then it kind of makes them dread paying me, which is obviously what you don't want to do. So, if there's a way that we can make that easier, even if that means just more instructional videos. Like, I know TurboTax obviously a completely different software, but I remember if you hover over anything, it has a tutorial, it has a little blurb, so you can like figure it out. So maybe some more guidance and instruction is the solution to that. Because again, like Tyler said, we obviously do not recommend hourly. So like let's make it easier for these like monthly retainer client models.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think Upwork should support monthly retainers. Right now, there is no way to set up a monthly retainer on Upwork, which is kind of insane to me because so many of their freelancers are offering monthly ongoing service. And so why would you make it so they have to approve that payment every single month? So if they're using Upwork, it should be an automatic payment every single month. They can go in there and cancel it whenever they want, but it should be automatic. It's just about removing that friction, right? Right now, Upwork still it's a very great, well-designed website, but there's still areas of friction that less computer savvy clients are just really struggling with. I mean, we have people in our coaching program who want to bring real world clients onto the platform so that they can get some job history, right? And they are struggling just to get their clients to sign up to Upwork. That is a problem. That is something that needs to be solved. It should be completely seamless to create an account on Upwork and hire a freelancer directly. There shouldn't be any issues. There shouldn't be any technical problems. There shouldn't be any ID verification issues, which there are a lot of right now. All of that needs to be streamlined because right now, Upwork is missing out on a lot of revenue because their onboarding process is too complicated. Their hiring process is too complicated. And so they need to find a way to streamline it even further.
Yeah, like I shouldn't be having to create a Google Doc with screenshots of each step that a new client has to take to hire me or to start like a monthly retainer project. Like that shouldn't be a thing. Like they should be able to streamline this in some sort of way.
So those are some of our biggest changes that we would make. We do have more, which we're going to go over in a future video, but we'd love to hear, what is your experience on Upwork and what would be some of the biggest things that you would change about Upwork? I know the main one is the Upwork Connects system, which I don't think is going to be changing anytime soon, but maybe there's some more nuance, some smaller detail things that you would change that really frustrates you about Upwork. So let us know, what are some things that you want to change on Upwork, and maybe we'll touch on that in our next video.
We have onboarded our very last beta tester, and we've been getting our beta testers really impressive results for our high-level Upworker coaching program and course. So we are looking to go live with that in the next couple of months. So if you are interested, definitely send Tyler an email. Well, thank you all so much for watching our content. We are always looking to take content requests. So if you have any specific topics in mind that you would like us to create some videos around, please feel free to comment and we will see you in the next one.